Silver bells, silver bells, it's Christmas time in the city. Ring-a-ling, hear them ring, soon it will be Christmas Day.
Welcome to the Say Network podcast. I am your host for this episode, Abraham Guevara, and with me I have our amazing, cool, super duper awesome co-host, sometimes also host, Jim Sparks.
Hello.
And Megan Villalpando.
Hey, everyone.
And we also have Christina Macias with us.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay. She's our fellow worker here at the youth department, and we're glad to have her. But this episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about something you guys are all very, very familiar with, and that is kettles. Woo! This is the time of year where you guys are very involved with kettles, and I am absolutely sure you are very busy right now. All of you.
Suddenly we turn into Power 106.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about that, and we've had the experience. All of us have been involved with our corps and have had very interesting kettle experiences and just Christmas season experiences working for the Salvation Army. And so we're going to get into that a little bit. But before we get into that, we're going to be talking a little bit about youth culture, and with an awesome resource /article /topic, we have Jim Sparks. So what do you got for us, Jim?
Hey, yes. So here's the title of the article: Real life activities lead to happier teens. And teens who participate in in-person after-school activities such as sports, arts, and community programs show higher levels of life satisfaction and optimism, according to the study published in the Preventative Medicine. The teens surveyed also reported lower screen time, a habit associated with higher levels of anxiety and depression. Teens tend to engage in both extracurricular activities and screen time. Therefore, the authors wanted to examine time use of both in relation to mental health indicators. And the study included self-reported data from more than 28,000 seventh grade students, and of the teens surveyed, 14.47 did not participate in extracurricular activities. For screen time, 48% reported less than 2 hours a day, and 47.52% reported 2 hours more of a day. All this to say is that it means that youth group is a really big deal, right?
Yeah.
Being in person. And now it's difficult, obviously, with COVID right now, but, and I guess we're counting screen time in the Zooms meetings that we're doing, but that's a little bit different. Probably not exact screen time of being away. Screen time is usually associated with like just by yourself or playing games and stuff. But it is important. And now on the flip side, I think that is also important for us to consider is too much of extracurricular activities also leads to drain. I'm sure there's studies on that, but being involved in extra things or outside things or things in community is obviously super important. And my worry is during this pandemic is that a lot of those have been canceled. And so as this study shows, it's important to have those. And will kids go back to them? Will they be slow to go back to them? And that's the concern that I have from all of this, because it's been a while.
Yeah.
And so for kids in sports, they may be like, I'm done with playing that sport because I missed a season, or I'm done. You know, it's like, it's not that big of a deal. Or dance. It's like, I don't really want to go back to dance anymore. It was kind of nice not having to run around everywhere, even though we need that kind of stuff. We need that kind of activities. But I know with my own kids that they need those activities. Mm-hmm. And while it has been nice to not have those activities, our kids are outside a lot. We make our kids go out and be outside a lot. I think pandemic as parents that are supervising their kids' schooling, I think we forget that schools have multiple recesses and lunchtime to go out and play and to be outside and to do stuff, because there's a reason for it. And this article highlights that. But what's your guys' thoughts?
I like, I think the interesting thing is sort of real life activities. I think sports is good too. I also think what I try to do, at least during the season, is to have them with me. Even with mundane things that are not even like, a big deal. If I'm just going to the supermarket, if I'm just going to go get my car fixed or something, like I try to bring one of them with me, if not both. It's usually easier when it's just one, but just so that they can, feel what it's like to be outside, but also like life is that. Like, a grown-up life is a little bit of that. There's a lot of monotony to grown-up life. And so to them, it's amazing when you're a kid just hanging out with your parents. You're just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to the store with my mom. And that's kind of like interesting, or it can be boring, but I try to get them as involved as I can. I actually got a really cute story about this. My youngest, Samara, I took her with me. When we went to the store and we were leaving the store, she was all like, you want to go get lunch? She's 4 years old. And I'm like, sure, let's go get lunch. And so we went out and we got lunch, and we just hung out together, me and my little 4-year-old, and just kind of some impromptu daddy-daughter date / just spending time with my kid, and just eating lunch and hanging out with them. And so I've been trying to do more of, like, whenever I go out, I try to bring one of them with me. And if we go to the supermarket, when my 4-year-old, when we're checking out, I have her put the stuff on the thing. I try to have her participate as much as I can in like what I do as an adult. Not only because, it's good to spend that time, but also, she needs to get out of the house, and she needs to know what the outside world is like. And I feel like it's really easy, man. And I've even had that problem of leaving them in front of the screen for too long, And I think it's very, that real world experience is very important, and it's a little more challenging, but we gotta be more intentional about that.
Yeah, I think just one thing that sticks out to me from that is it just reminds me of like my own childhood and how I did different types of extracurricular activities. So I did, sports when I was young. I did dance, I did basketball, I did volleyball. But then at the same time, I was also doing extracurricular things at the Corps as well. I was doing youth group, I was doing troops, I was pretty involved in the Corps. And what I loved about it, not just like the whole thing of, like learning skills and getting better at things and discipline, that sort of thing, but was also the social aspect. I had friends in, my sports with school, and it was cool because, you see them in the hall and that kind of stuff. Like it just helps you get to know a lot of people. But then at the same time, some of those friends were not always the best influence. I also had my church friends who I felt like were really grounded and stuff for the most part. And so I don't know. I think that social aspect's really important too when you're a kid, when you're young, and it kind of it teaches you a lot that can carry on with you into adulthood about socializing and how to treat people and that kind of stuff, and kind of emotional maturity, social maturity, I guess. I don't know if that's even a term, but I hope we don't lose that in this, because it would be so much easier. I think of like parents, to not take your kids to be like, yeah, we'll do the church stuff, but let's pass on the school extracurricular stuff or whatever, or vice versa. But I hope we don't lose that kind of social aspect as well. I think there's a lot of value there.
Yeah, and we're finding it's easy to stay home right now. It's kind of nice, and so that could happen. To tack on to what Abraham said, I do the same. My kids, I have 3, and we found that if you take one out, then the other 2 get along. It doesn't matter the combo at all, as long as there's one that's removed. Like if all 3 are together, then they're good. They're good for a while, but it's not optimal. But because of being at home, we've been doing a lot of projects at home, and it's much slower to involve them in the projects because they're learning and stuff, and mistakes are made, and I make mistakes as well. but it's far more beneficial for both of us to do stuff. And so, and as I'm learning, then they're learning as well. And it's a lot of fun, and you have that. And for like work projects, like things, I always think back, like when I was a maintenance guy at camp, like we had to, whatever the project was, it could be painting something. Anytime someone from outside the camp came to visit, you're like, you see that curb? I painted that curb. There's like an element of pride attached to that. And that happens at the home too. And so when they're working on stuff in the home themselves, there's an element of pride there. One of my sons helped me with we replaced all of our outdoor sconces, and the previous owner at their house liked outdoor lighting apparently. And so we replaced 16 sconces. And, but he helped me with every single one of them, and he ended up being able to do it himself. And he's 11 and is able to replace a lighting sconce himself safely. And then it turned into one of his homework assignments. He had to do a how-to paper, and that was his how-to paper, and he filmed himself doing it. And so I think that's good. And I think, like I said, it's just faster if I could just knock them all out, but it's not as beneficial, and they're getting that experience and learning themselves how to do stuff is, I think, a good thing altogether. But on top of that is just to be able to spend time with them individually, and you're chatting the whole time while you're doing it. So it's a lot of fun, and it's real life. That's real life.
Yeah.
It's kind of ironic. I feel that we kind of are, it's like a full circle type thing where we used to say, we used to play outside when we were little, and now we have kids that are desperate to play outside or be able to do something outside. I'll do the same thing with my nieces and nephews, where I'll just say, come with me to go get some food, and we'll stop at the park and eat it there just randomly. And to them, it's such a big deal to have a small picnic that was not planned at all. But it was, those are kind of normal things that we would do when we were younger, where it was like, we're going to go to the park and play whatever. And although we can't actually go on playgrounds here, right now, just being outside for them is like just enough. My mom always says go outside so you can get some air for your brain. And so, but in Spanish, which is actually way better. Yeah, exactly. And so they're like, okay, what do you mean? And it's just instantly, vitamin D helps a lot.
Get the kids outside, everybody. Get them back into regular activities as much as you can, and fire up the youth groups. It's important to their lives. Next, we have a resource that Christina is going to share with us. This is an actual tangible resource that you could use right now.
Yeah, so this holiday season, we were able to collaborate with Caring Magazine, who earlier this month released The Little Do-Gooder's Guide to Advent for Families. And this 5-week study is meant to be an unhurried approach to the holiday season, which we all know is often super hectic. It doesn't matter whether you're in the Army or not. It's usually very busy and it goes by really fast. This free resource was hosted by Lieutenant Erin Weichel from the Santa Monica Corps, and she helps families dive deeper into understanding the true meaning of words that we often hear in the season, like hope, peace, joy, and love. And she extends an invitation to have meaningful conversations together while also checking what the scriptures has to say about these themes. In addition to the study, which you can all download right now, families can also follow the printed calendar to pair the fun of the Christmas season with ways to do good in a more tangible manner, and truly observe Advent as a family. So if you're interested in downloading this resource, we will share the link in the show notes so that you can sign up and get started on the study with your families today, even though it's week 3. Doesn't matter. You can still catch up. Yeah, still catch up and check it out. It's very easy and low key, and but also very meaningful. So check it out.
2 a days. If you need to catch up, 2 a day.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Breakfast, and dinner.
Well, we don't want to use all the football terms because 2 days is typically during Hell Week.
Yeah.
So
2 days.
Drama.
let's steer away from that.
Yeah, do Advent, man. Advent's great. I do it with my family. It's an excuse to spend more time together and to study the Word together. There's a couple of activities we do at my church. They give us calendars, but I do like this as well. This is really awesome, and Erin is really cool. She's also a Service Corps alumni with me. Team Go Fighting Mongooses. I don't know what we were, but yeah.
Mexico?
Mexico. Go Team Mexico.
Did you guys go to Mexico?
Yes, we did. And yeah, so she's great, and check it out, guys. Do you guys do anything for Advent, or have you ever done anything?
I was given a calendar. I had a bad experience early on in my life with Advent.
Traumatic.
And we were all given those little tinfoil-y calendars that you poke a hole in and you get a piece of chocolate out of it. I wasn't a good student growing up. And I thought of that Advent thing as a piece of homework because I had to read through the stuff. I was not informed that there was chocolate behind the tinfoil. And so my brother and my sister were doing it and stuff like that. And mine just sat on my desk and I didn't.
Oh, no.
I didn't touch it because it was like homework. I wasn't going to do homework. And so then it was like after Christmas sometime, it might've been after the New Year's, they were talking about how good that chocolate was. I was like, what are you guys talking about? And how come I didn't get it? And they're like, it was in that calendar that Grandma had sent us. And I was like, I don't know what you're even talking about. My mom's like, the thing on your desk. And I opened up and all the chocolate was like white. It was all, it was all, why does chocolate turn white when it rots? But I tried eating like 3 or 4 pieces just to try to get something out of it. And I didn't. It was a bad start to my Advent career. But every time I see one of those tinfoil-y things, I'm like, I missed out on a lot of chocolate.
There's no food involved with our Advent, but we do it during dinner, and it's a little devotional. We pass the book around because the devotionals are fairly long, and your food can get cold. So we pass it around so that, we can actually get some dinner, some eating going on.
I was going to say, not in my house. That food barely touches the table, and it's already in the mouths of my children.
Absorbed.
We had omelets yesterday, and I forgot how many, 26 eggs were used.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm sure they ate other things as well. Like, it's insane right now.
Megan, did your family ever do anything, or do you have any Advent experience?
Not too much outside of the core. So a lot of times our family would participate in Advent at the core. Like one Sunday we'd light the candle and, recite whatever the scripture was and stuff. But yeah, outside of that, that's pretty much it.
Oh my goodness.
Why do cores only choose the good families to do this, by the way?
Yeah, man, I'm offended.
Picturesque.
I don't know. It's like, come on, can we get something a little bit wilder than that? But
the first time I saw the candle lighting was when I started going to a core, and I had never seen that before. Being in the Spanish church, I'd never seen that till the Salvation Army. I think Spanish cores in the Salvation Army do it. But then, as when I got married and then when I had kids, I was like, you know what? I want traditions. I want something my kids can remember, because I didn't have a ton of that. Christmas was just presents and some Christmas pageants, stuff like that, but not a ton of family traditions. So I jumped on the Advent bandwagon and I've enjoyed it, and it's really great.
Awesome. Well, there's a good resource if you're not, and we just shared it.
So
very easy. Sign up.
Sign up. It's really awesome. Thank you so much, Christina. And yeah, so Christmas season is upon us. For many of you, it is a time of It's go time. It's go time right now, and I'm just thankful you have time to listen to this podcast with how busy you are right now. And Kettles is probably on the forefront of many of your minds, as it was on my mind at the time when I used to be heavily involved at a core. And so my question is, and I know we've all had that experience, but what was your first experience with Kettles? What do you remember? I guess your first memories with Kettles.
Mine would have been when I first got into the senior band when I was 14. But the choir I was going to at the time, we didn't do Kettles as a band, but we did them. We would go to rest homes and play in quartets, but I feared Kettles like no other as a young bandman, because the problem is there's only 4 or 5 of you, and you each have your own part, and you have to play your part for it to sound good, and that is terrifying. And you have to do it on this on the street corner, right? And that fear has never really left me. I don't hate Kettles. I like doing it and stuff like that. I just hate the fact that I have to play one part that everyone has to hear. Saying that, I'm not a fan of that bell, so I'd rather play an instrument than the bell.
Silver bells.
But it's nerve-wracking the entire time, because you don't want to, I think of what I would say if I was walking by listening to something bad, and I don't want that said to me. and so it's nerve-wracking. And then, especially on top of it, I was like, I don't want to see people I know at all. And because then they're like, you play an instrument? And I have to go through that whole weird thing. So there's a lot of weirdness for me. But But one of my earliest recollections of actually being at a kettle, we had a celebrity come by and drop money in our kettle, and it was really cool. And his name was Tupac Shakur.
What?
Have you heard of him?
Are you serious?
Really?
Yes, it was in South Coast Plaza in Orange County, and we were playing, and we were awful group, and he just came walking up, and I had no idea who it was. My friend knew who he was, so he told me, but I didn't know who it was. And it was an entourage of people came, and very little of them gave money, and he pulled out a giant wad, and he was flipping through all of his bills, and then he gave us a $20 bill.
That 20 is probably worth so much more than 20.
So yeah. So I didn't know who he was. It wasn't until well after that I realized who he was.
Jim,
So,
I think your street cred has just grown substantially.
I know. Well, I mean, I can't say that we dodged any bullets in the midst of all of it, but I didn't know who he was. And so it'd probably be a cooler story if I knew who he was and all that. The funny enough is we saw Skilo, the rapper.
Okay. Yeah.
A couple years later, and I knew who that was. I didn't know who Tupac was, but I knew who Skilo was.
I wish I was a little bit tall, in case you guys are.
But so that was kind of early. But it's nerve wracking to me, particularly when I was younger. Now I've kind of got the parts down, so it's not as bad. But when I was younger, I was like, oh no, please no, please no, I don't want to do it. But it was good. It's good to push yourself.
Megan, what was your first experience with Kettles?
Okay, so I have a couple firsts. One, I remember as a kid actually putting money in the kettle before I was even affiliated with Salvation Army at all. I do remember seeing bell ringers out in the holidays. And then I think my first time actually ringing at a kettle stand was with my youth group when I was probably in middle school, maybe late elementary school, and I was same as Jim. I didn't like it. I wasn't playing an instrument or anything. We were just ringing and kind of waving at people, helping people with shopping carts and stuff. But I was terrified that I was going to see somebody that I knew from school, because we would ring, and sometimes it would be in where my school district was, but then other times it would be in another school district. So I'd always want to be in that other school district. So basically, I was really nervous that I was going to see people from different, my school. So I always wanted to ring in the other locations that were in another school district, because it was just awkward. But I actually ended up seeing someone that I did know one time. I was actually bell ringing by myself. It was on Christmas Eve, and my mom has been the kettle coordinator at my home corps for years. She works at the corps, and that was at Christmas time, she would be the kettle coordinator. And I was on, winter break, Christmas break from school. And I remember she was like, if you're not doing anything today, we could really use some help at this one kettle location. Someone dropped out, our ringer, and we just really need some help. And so I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so it ended up being at a liquor store, and this location tends, just for whatever reason, does really good on Christmas Eve. I wonder why.
I think we know why.
And so I'm ringing, and I ended up seeing a teacher from my school there coming to the liquor store. So it's a little bit awkward.
So this was the school district you were trying to avoid.
Yeah. So actually, no, this sort of. So by this point, I can't remember if I was in high school or college at this point. I think I was maybe like 18. So this particular teacher was from my college.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, but still really awkward.
Funny.
That's hilarious. I think those are two questions I would ask for anybody listening. Please write to us. Tell us the craziest location that you've ever done kettles at. And then also let us know, what is the coldest temperature you've ever... I'm curious to see which one of our listeners has the coldest, who's ever rang bells in the coldest weather. I've been to Colorado, and I've seen folks ringing out there, and it is pretty dang cold, but I know things can get colder. So yeah.
Every year.
It's pretty cold in Oregon, but not as cold as some other places.
I was going to say, Oregon's probably got some cold ones. We never are really that cold. But I have been on our local news multiple times being at a kettle. And it's always because of a cold weather report for the local news. It's always like, it's dipping down into high 40. And but that's not stopping the Salvation Army band from standing around the kettle and stuff like that. And I don't know. I think I had like a 6-year streak of being on the local news, because we kettle on a Friday night. It's a slow news night, and where we kettle is only 15 minutes away from all the Los Angeles affiliate news stations.
Nice.
And so it's been pretty funny. But it's always a cold weather report. Always. You would think it would be a shopping one, but no, it's always cold weather, and it's because we went under that magical 50-degree mark. Oh
my gosh, 50 degrees. The day I rang at the liquor store, I don't know the exact temperature, but in that area, they get this really strong, they call it an east wind, and it's just this really, really cold wind that comes in, and it could be 40 degrees, and it feels like, I don't know, 30 or 25 or something. And so I remember being so cold that day.
I don't know what the coldest temperature somebody's ring bells in, but I do know I went to Cheyenne, Wyoming during the holidays, and it was below zero. I was -1. I experienced that for the first time in my life, which almost dang near killed me. It was the worst thing ever. But yeah, they have kettles, and they have the Salvation Army there. So yeah, man, lots of love to you folks out there ringing bells in that crazy temperature. So let me ask you guys this. So why did you decide to participate? Some of us were forced, but why did you decide to participate in kettles?
Well, I think we know Megan's reason. Her mom was kettle coordinator. I was because I mean, I think initially it felt forced because the band does it, and that's what we do. But while I talked about my nerves and insecurities of doing it, I enjoy it now, and I understand its importance. And probably like a lot of things, when you're younger, you don't realize as much, but as you're older and you see it, it's different. And there was a moment, I don't know how many years ago, it was a while back, but we were playing, and to be honest, I was annoyed. I was out there. It was slightly raining, and I didn't want to be out there. And I could see a homeless guy walking towards us, and so I was mentally preparing for the conversation that, these are the services that we could get you and what Salvation Army does. And he came up and he gave us a $5 bill and put it in the kettle. And he said something to the effect of like, I've been given so much that I need to give in times like this. And I was completely like taken back altogether that this is a person that was very much homeless and but was giving to give to others. And to me, it changed my whole perspective of the importance of kettles, and not just the money that's involved, but the attitude in which the attitude of transactions. I don't know if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. That happens in that of like, I am thinking of others while I'm doing this. And I think that's a big deal. And so now that moment kind of changed my perspective of doing kettles and the importance of it. And I enjoy it. And I still am uncomfortable playing my instrument in front of people, but that's fine. I know that it's far more important than my uncomfortableness.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead, Megan.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, initially when I got into it, it was like I say with the youth group and stuff, we would just pick a Saturday and we would just go and do it and volunteer. And it was fun, honestly. Like, I mean, I had like anxieties about it sometimes, seeing people that I knew, but it was fun. It was just something that we got to do together, and we always really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it was initially a core officer kid. You're automatically on the roster, whether you like it or not. And I think initially, when my first experience seeing kettles, obviously was before Army, seeing them around Walmart and all that stuff. But then when I got involved, I would see them out there, and I think the why didn't really hit me until I saw the full operation that the Salvation Army does during Christmas, which is the food distribution, toy distribution, the kettles, all that stuff happening simultaneously. And even at the smallest corps, even the smallest corps is like doing all 3 or all 4 of these things at the same time. And you could see the direct results, or you could see where the money for the kettles is going to, almost like right there on the spot, you could see the work happening. And I think that it really helped with the why, at least for me, to be able to go out there, because you could just see it. You could see that this money was going towards what was happening at the Corps at the moment, and that Corps needed, for many Corps, it was a big part of their budget. And so, it went to the community. It went directly to the communities that were people were giving from. So I think that the reason to get involved was right there in front of me. And it was pretty cool. So yeah. And I'm sure many of you are seeing that out there right now. Those of you who are going through this right now.
Yeah, Abraham, I was just going to say on that, I always want to challenge people who are maybe skeptical about nonprofits or charities or stuff. I mean, I can't speak for all of them, but for Salvation Army, for sure, like the donations really do go to services. They really do go to like help other people. And so for anyone that's like skeptical about that, I just always want to encourage them, like, come and volunteer, maybe post-COVID, but like come and volunteer and see where those funds go and see the type of people that are being helped. Like the Salvation Army really does not truly like discriminate against anybody. I mean, they really do help everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Going on that too, like what are some other memorable stories that you guys remember from, your years working with Kettles?
I have a weird one. I have several weird ones. The nice part about being out on the street for several hours at a time, particularly in a busy location where I am, you get to see some bizarre things. There's one guy that walks his dog every year. I see him every year, and he looks just like his dog. Like it's an absolute match made in heaven. And I see him every year. And and then there's another guy that comes to our kettle stand every year, and it's as if it's his first time ever coming to a kettle stand to talk to the musicians. And I don't forget faces, and I don't forget talking to him every year. And he's like, "Oh, so what instrument is this?" And like we had this conversation last year. And so like, those are kind of the usuals that I'm looking out for. Oh, there's a guy also in Pasadena that drives a Honda Element, and he has the windows all down, and he plays like this flute. I don't know what type of flute it is. I haven't been able to see that closely. And he's got the radio backing tracks up really loud, and he plays that flute so loud, and he just make rounds and rounds and rounds on that street. And there's a Reddit thread about him. There's I don't know who he is, but he plays the most fierce flute thing you've ever seen, and his body gyrates like he's having convulsions while he's doing it. So those are kind of some of the usual suspects that I get to see every year that I've missed this year.
You're gonna have to give us the link on that Reddit thread.
Yeah, I can't, like, it's so bizarre, this guy, and he'll make anywhere from 10 to 12 loops on a Friday night.
Flute loops.
But one time we were playing, and now I know my part enough that I could kind of look around and observe people, because I like observing people. And I see a Santa walking towards us, like in the distance. And I'm like, oh, okay. He just came around the corner, and I go, hey guys, we should play Here Comes Santa Claus. And so we started playing Here Comes Santa Claus, but then my eyes like bugged out. Another Santa came. 100 Santas came around the corner, and they were heavily intoxicated. And they came around, and because we were playing Here Comes Santa Claus, their minds melted, and they surrounded us, and there was video cameras everywhere. It was a flash mob of some sort. And this was pretty early in the flash mob days, but there was video cameras everywhere. And all I could think was, like, at first I was like, my safety, right? Because they were standing like all around us. I was like, are we going to get hurt? And how can I use this baritone to protect myself? And then
First, I want to see like what that looks like, defending self-defense classes with a baritone.
I know.
I'd imagine the baritone would be the shield.
Yeah, the nice part of the baritone is I can swing that thing. I could swing it like a baseball bat if I need to. Nice. But then, it was during a time when. Those flash mobs were doing pranks as well.
Right.
And so I then got really nervous. It was like, what are they going to do to us? Or are they going to steal the kettle? Because they surrounded us and stuff like that. And there's all these video cameras. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. And so as soon as we finished the song, they all yelled, hey, really loud. And then they brought out all their alcohol, started drinking, and then just moved on like a tide of jellyfish, just moved on together. And we were so stunned that we didn't play for a good 20 minutes because we were like, what just happened? It was so bizarre. So flash mob on that. But there's been some fun moments. Like we've run across some celebrities. Last year, Angela Bassett dropped some money in our kettle, and Fiona Masongo almost passed out. She was so excited. She stopped. She goes, Jim, do you know who that was? I go, she looks very familiar. I think she's in this movie. She's like, yes, it's Angela Bassett. And I go, oh, that's really cool. She goes, can I go talk to her? I was like, you could say hi. And she did. And Angela Bassett had a great conversation with her. It was really, really nice. And but we've also have benefited from company parties too. Like my favorite story is because they have these company parties right around the corner from us. And so this one guy who's clearly the boss, CEO, whatever he was clearly the boss. He had about four or five guys walking with him, and they were clearly kissing up to him and all that stuff. And they walked by the kettle, and we were just playing, and I saw him glance at the kettle, and then he stopped and walked back, and he gave all the cash out of his wallet into the kettle. And he said, the Salvation Army helped me when I was a kid. And you hear these stories a lot, which is amazing. And you hear just incredible stories. And he goes, and I cannot walk by a kettle without giving money. And so thank you for that. And that was really cool. And then he tells the guys who are following him, he goes, empty out your wallets and put it in the kettle right now. And they did. They all just emptied out their, that was the best I think we ever did in one evening. And he just told them, empty out your wallets. It almost felt like robbery a little bit, like picking up, but it was like a surrogate robbery. But it was a really cool moment. And it was because the Salvation Army helped that guy when
that's cool.
And his mom specifically. So that was cool.
I think I just have like one story. It's not nearly that epic, but at my core, we used to have multiple routes of kettles. And so they would need a driver to go and pick up the kettles and change them out for each of the routes. And so some years I would drive and take a route, and it takes about 2 hours. You got to go to maybe 10 or 12 stores and switch out the kettles. And I just remember there were a couple times, rarely, there was almost always two people driving together just for like safety and accountability and things. But occasionally you would have to go by yourself if somebody got sick or something happened or whatever. And so I just, I remember one time there was two of us in there, and I was driving, and I had to, basically it felt so sketch the way you would pick up the kettle sometimes, because if the bell ringer left, they would put the kettle behind the counter of the customer service. Yeah. So you would have to park the van, and you would have to put your flashers on in front of the store, and then you'd have to go in and you'd have to pick up the kettles, and everybody is staring at you because you don't have anything official on because you're just driving. And so you have to like take these kettles and like get to the van really quickly. I just remember feeling like, oh, this looks really sketch, but it was very memorable. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's still like that for the most part. I don't know how you can make that look a little less weird, but yeah, because it was just right behind the customer service. You just walk up there. I learned when I was the route manager, I learned the more confidently you walked behind that customer service thing, the less, the less questions people have. Yeah.
But the looks you get when you're walking out with a loaded kettle. Yeah,
you feel like you're gonna get jumped. It's a really scary experience, and it's yeah. So definitely, I in terms of memorable stories, I think one we had. I mean, I did kettles out in the valley, in the Central Valley. So, it's a lot of farm towns out there. A lot of it is what it is. But I remember we managed to get a local celebrity to ring bells. He was the weather guy for a news station. His name was Kopi Soteropoulos, and he rang bells for us. I managed to get him because at the time I was working for the news as well, and so and volunteering at the Corps. So I just sent out an email to a friend and just said, hey, can we get Kopi to ring bells for us? And he was more than happy to go ring bells for us. He did his weather report out there next to the kettle. And then people were just showing up like crazy to just take pictures with the local celebrity. And so it was a pretty cool, memorable experience. I got to be out there with a camera, record him, and it was super cool. But yeah, kettles and being involved with all that is always a cherished memory. It wasn't easy season. It's not the easiest of seasons, but you never forget it. You always look, I think, fondly for the most part on all the stuff that happened, regardless of the challenges. Right now, we have a lot of volunteers out there. A lot of you listening to this are volunteering and very involved in your Corps. And I just want to ask you guys, what words of encouragement do you have for those people listening to us right now?
Well, get involved. Kettle season is, almost finished, but you could still be involved in doing an online kettle and asking friends and family to do that. It's very easy. We'll put the link in here to get your online kettle going, and it really is like everything counts. Like any money that comes in counts and is needed. Because of COVID and the impact, we don't have the access to as many kettles, and so giving is going to be lower because of that. And so, but we could do it ourselves by getting hosting an online one. I did one, and I was, absolutely taken back by the generosity of my friends to give. And I probably made more in my online kettle than I would standing at a kettle. But be involved. Your local Corps has access to that. So if you want to connect your giving to your Corps, then ask your Corps officer, and they will give you a link in how to set that up, so that it directs it right to the Corps. That's what I've done with mine. And but get involved in, and you could do it from home. And all you do is send a few emails out and asking for people to give, and it's a pretty easy system that they have set up. It's really nice. So get involved. It really does matter. And I think a lot of times we rely on others to do the stuff, and you're like, oh, well, they'll take care of it. They'll take care of it. But if we all get in on the action, it's just going to make everything better, and it's needed. And again, it's not hard. Like, you don't have to, if you're like me, didn't like to go out in front of people and play your instrument or any of that kind of stuff, you can just send them an email, and people will give. And while we're in a weird time right now, people are very giving and want to help, and they just need to be pointed in the right direction. And so, yeah, a few emails that I sent out, I just couldn't believe the responses that I got, and the generosity of others. And every one of us has those people in our lives that we could just simply ask, and you just don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. And I saw a story, a note. I forgot where it was. I apologize. But I think I saw it on LinkedIn, but it was a note that was written, and it had,
I know what you're talking about.
$1,200 or something like that.
Yeah.
Where the guy was going to go buy an iPhone,
right,
and he felt bad, and so he didn't, and then gave that money. That's the season that we're in, and that's the attitude of a lot of people. And so get involved, and it's real easy. You don't have to be gifted musically. You don't have to do all that stuff. You just have to be able to write emails out to your friends.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Megan?
Yeah, I just would want to say thank you just to everybody who's stepped in and given of your time. And I know some of the bell ringing conditions, it's freezing cold. It is a real sacrifice of your comfort even to get out there and to ring. I just want to make a special mention for everybody who went out and rang bells for All Fight Day as well. Yeah. I saw quite a few Corps and youth groups out there participating. So I just want to say thank you guys. What you're you're doing, it really does matter. It is important. And whether you're a leader or you're a youth or whoever, it's important, and your impact is great. And just know that it is appreciated. And in this season, the need is greater than maybe even ever before. So just to echo what Jim said, every little contribution really does matter. So thank you.
And Abraham, I think we have a contender for both the coolest location and coldest location. Matt
I would
Morrow,
agree.
Fairbanks, Alaska. Welcome to the city of North Pole, Alaska, is where he's kettling.
Oh
Nice.
my gosh.
Nice.
So there you go.
That's awesome, man. That's incredibly cold. But yeah, well, yeah, those of you out there, this is the time of year, it's the season to be really busy and to be hectic and all that stuff. But what you're doing is you're doing it for an amazing cause. You're doing it for an amazing reason. Your efforts are not being overlooked. People are being impacted by what you're doing, and you are storing treasure for yourself in heaven. And your heavenly Father will not forget about these awesome deeds and these awesome things you're doing, and the seeds that you've planted in the past, and all those cool things that you will do in the future. So from all of us here at the Say Network, we love you. We're glad that you joined us and that you are here. We also want to say Merry Christmas. If people want to look for us, Megan, where can they look for us at?
Yeah, so we are, you can listen to the podcast. We are available on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, and we're also on YouTube. And if you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us on Say Network. We're on Instagram. We're also on Facebook. And then there's also a way to reach out to us if you're old school. If you like email, you prefer email, you can reach out to us at sayconnect@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. And again, Merry Christmas to all.
And to all, a good night.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Here is what Christmas time means to me. Strings of street lights,
Even stoplights blink a bright red and green as the shoppers rush home with their treasures.
hear the snow crunch, see the kids bunch,
This is Santa's big scene,
and above all